Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg, and the Philadelphia 76ers signed coach Brett Brown to a 3-year extension. But that's not really the story out of Philly. The Ringer reported Sixers president of basketball operations and GM Brian Colangelo is suspected of having 5 burner Twitter accounts. The accounts criticize players including Joel Embiid, former GM Sam Hinkie, and perhaps most notably, vehemently defended Colangelo. They also may have disclosed medical info on players and Sixers front office strategy. Colangelo admitted to one account that only follows league sources. He denied knowledge of the others that posted, though they went private after the Sixers were informed of the report. People across the league have responded, appropriately enough, on Twitter. As you can see, the Philadelphia 76ers have launched an investigation into the matter.
Wow, a lot to unpack here. We are also joined by SI's Rohan Nadkarni. Rohan, I wish you were in studio with us today because this is a lot to discuss. This is absolutely insane. If all this is true, Rohan, I'll start with you. What will the fallout be?
Well, I mean, there's no way he can keep his job, right? I mean, if it's true, I think that's the first thing that's going to happen. He's not going to keep his job. I think there's already been some fallout, and we can't see it, and that's a lot of GMs last night deleting their burner accounts. I think the key to this story, and maybe it's something that hasn't been talked about enough yet, is who leaked this to the Ringer. I think whoever leaked this had an agenda, and we all know how crazy Philly fans are. I think there's a lot more to this story in terms of who leaked it. That's what I'm most interested in right now.
Well, you know, Ron, if it's true, Brian Colangelo also had an agenda defending Brian Colangelo. And you're right, he has to go if that's the case, if this is true. When Kevin Durant had a burner account, that was embarrassing. And it's one thing for a GM to have a burner account to monitor league activity. It's another to be taking shots at your own personnel and organization. I think that's where the line is crossed, no?
Oh, there's definitely a line cross, but let's not get this wrong. This is embarrassing for Brian Colangelo too, and it's hilarious. It's also hilarious. I mean, this is one of the greatest NBA stories all season. I mean, I'm more excited about this than the finals, frankly. I agree, though, that he definitely crossed some lines. I mean, when he's tweeting at reporters to ask certain questions about Jahlil Okafor's physical, he definitely crossed some lines, and I wouldn't not be surprised if Adam Silver steps in and he has to start putting in some kind of guidelines or code or something to be like, listen, we can't be having this. We can't be having general managers creating fake Twitter accounts, to accidentally leak medical information. Or there's so many layers to the story. I mean, if just go through the tweets these burner accounts are liking, there's some questionable opinions in there that Brian Colangelo seemed to be a fan of. There are so many layers to this story.
I mean, this runs the gamut, like you said, Rohan, in terms of some of these tweets. I just was reading through them this morning, going from super unprofessional and inappropriate, accusing Brett Brown of sabotaging the team by keeping Markelle Fultz on the bench, that from the account Still Balling, pushing reporters to ask certain questions, like you mentioned about Jahlil Okafor's medical info, and then, of course, him defending his choice of wearing collars that didn't really fit when people criticized his collars. And my personal favorite, when somebody calls him out on, is this Brian Colangelo? He says, no, but thanks for the compliment. I worked with him before. What a class act that guy is. He's too classy to be doing something like this on Twitter.
I mean, the best part about all of this is that it's the jokes we made about KD are the kind of tweets this burner account was sending, right? Like, we were making jokes like, oh, KD is going to be defending himself left and right on the internet. That's exactly what this burner account was doing. I could even understand if it was, maybe trying to influence the media. I don't know. Maybe that's a smart play. But this guy, like you said, for defending the type of collars he wore on his shirts, I mean, calling himself a classy guy, it's absurd. It's like, it's the most almost selfish, egotistical impulse that people have on social media. And he took it to such an insane extreme. I really can't believe it. I mean, he's been calling people, apparently telling them it's not true. I don't see how this is not true. I'm beyond, worrying about the veracity of the report. I'm more so curious at this point, again, like we mentioned earlier, who leaked it. But it's just an absurd story from start to finish.
Obviously, he's at the center of this, but Philadelphia had been viewed so positively. Is there any negative fallout for them overall, considering it could, show some organizational strife inside? I think Ben Simmons is dating Kendall Jenner now, or Kylie Jenner, one of those two. Does it show anything about the Sixers as a whole?
This is like TMZ over here.
Yeah, it's very funny. I think there's already some speculation last night. Is this going to hurt their free agency push, stuff like that? I kind of think it's not going to matter in the long run. I think players like Brett Brown, I think if you're a free agent, ultimately, if you're going to sign in Philly, it's not because of Brian Colangelo, it's because of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. I do think that in the moment, maybe we are a little bit more worried about what the consequences could be for Philly, more so than they'll actually impact them. I mean, at the end of the day, the on-court product there matters a lot more, and they finally have good players. So I'm not terribly worried about the long-term impact on Philadelphia just yet. In terms of free agents and stuff, I see people worrying about that. I don't think when push comes to shove and a player has a multi-million deal dollar in front of them to play with Joel, they're going to turn it down because of some tweets Brian Colangelo sent.
Here's my plan. Hire David Griffin right now, right? You get somebody who is proven, experienced, and obviously has a pretty good relationship with LeBron James.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think you're not the only person to have that theory. It's a good plan, right? Bring in Griffin, try to sign LeBron James. I'm with you. I think they got to get Colangelo out of there sooner rather than later. I think they've taken all right steps so far. I mean, they've announced the investigation. It seems like the Sixers are kind of willing to let Colangelo be telling people that it's not true. I don't know if I were them. If I were them, I'd be telling them, hey, you can't make any phone calls right now until we kind of figure out what's happening. So I'm with you. Their first move has got to be Colangelo either resigning. I think he's going to ultimately resign. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened by the end of the week. And then it's going to get someone like David Griffin. Anytime you could do something to give you a better chance at LeBron, you got to do it.
Rohan, we have talked many times about how NBA Twitter never fails. So, of course, we've had a lot of hilarious tweets about this incident. Some great stuff from Joel Embiid that we saw, but other GMs getting involved. Daryl Morey, I know one of your favorite follows on Twitter, says you need 2 blue checks to confirm that you are not a burner. And then Mark Cuban responding to this saying, actually, as of the new Twitter posting agreement, every NBA exec gets assigned 7 burner accounts. Let me know if I can help you get a burner for your accounts. By the way, loved your burner names. Maury Meister is my favorite.
Burn after tweeting.
Burn after tweeting. Yeah. Why do you think other GMs, owners, players, why do you think they're getting involved in this? What does that say about this story? To see these tweets from Mark Cuban, Daryl Morey, etc.
I think what it says is everyone realizes how funny this is. I mean, this is the most 21st century scandal of all time. It's funny. I'm not saying Brian Colangelo did the right thing. I think what he did was obviously incredibly stupid, especially when he's maybe tipping strategy on Twitter. But in terms of scandals, it's a pretty harmless one, right? I mean, nobody really got hurt. He said some stupid things, but I think people can appreciate how funny this is, how unique this is. There's going to be a lot of snark. There's going to be a lot of snark for a while. So I'm happy to see that not only is it the NBA writers getting, jumping into the fray, it's some general managers too. I think what it says about the story more than anything is people realizing just how it's hilarious. I mean, I can't overstate that. It's so funny that this guy was wasting all this time, not even on just one account. He had several accounts that he was doing this from. It's really just remarkable. The commitment he had to this bit was remarkable.
The crossovers, Rohan Carney. Rohan, some solidarity. We both tweet from our own personal accounts.
I appreciate it, Robin.
As the NBA Finals approach, both teams may be missing key players as Kevin Love remains in concussion protocol and Andre Iguodala is still questionable with a knee injury. Robin, which loss do you think would be bigger, the Cavs missing Kevin Love or the Warriors without Iggy?
I think it's Iguodala for the Warriors has more of an impact for what they do. He's sort of the skeleton key to their versatility on offense with his ball handling, an intelligent player, and then, of course, what he does defensively. And when he's not there defensively, who's guarding LeBron James? That probably has to be Kevin Durant. There is an argument to be made the Cavs are better defensively in this matchup and others without Kevin Love. But the real problem in this whole question is, even without Andre Iguodala, the Warriors still have Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green.
Right. I'm going to take the other side of it. I think that the Cavs need Kevin Love a little bit more. And the matchup is intriguing. I can see the argument at many different ways. But they were fine against the Rockets, without Iguodala. Still heavily favored against the Cavs.
They did lose a couple of those games against the Rockets.
It took them 7 instead of 5. But either way, they still got the W there. I think LeBron continues to do most of it by himself. I think you got to give him as much help as possible. He's playing, like I said yesterday, with old and broken pieces around him, and he needs as much help as possible to in this matchup to go as far as they can.
You know, of course, the Cavs have been looking for this matchup all year, so they've done some things strategically to get ready for it. Probably the reason they signed Jeff Green, and I think definitely the reason that Kevin Love was playing center for a large majority of the NBA season. Meanwhile, the Balls are back. Not just in the U.S., but in the news, as the Lakers worked out LiAngelo Ball in a pre-draft workout with other prospects. I suppose the question people are asking is why?
Why? Why do I have to talk about the Balls all the time? I'm so tired.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, but I just, if I never talk about it again, it's going to be too much. I would like to talk about Lonzo Ball playing basketball, and other than that, the circus act of the family, I've had enough. I think our boy Gene Cherry said it best. The Lakers are trying to stay in the media. Magic Johnson wants his name out there with this. I don't know why they would have him work out. I was reading some of his quotes about playing overseas and how he instantly grew up in that experience, and he just still sounds so immature to me. I don't know why anybody would take him.
I really don't see why this is a big deal, to be honest with you. His brother plays on the Lakers, right? Lonzo Ball plays on the Lakers. LeVar Ball, we know he needs to be pacified a little bit. So if you bring in LiAngelo for a workout, you're doing those things. You're doing good by his brother. You're doing good by his father. And there's no harm to it. You know, if they draft him, then you start to go, okay, what's going on over here, especially if they do that, you know, with a valued pick of any kind. But just bringing him in for a workout, I think the only downside is the media attention.
Is that we have to talk about it today, yes. Well, now we're about to talk about one of my favorite athletes, Serena Williams, back on the court, won her first Grand Slam match after having a baby, taking down Kristina Pliskova in the French Open. It's been 16 months since Serena has played at a major. She enters the French unseeded. Robin, could she be any more impressive?
Probably not. I mean, there are certain athletes. We've talked about LeBron a bunch. Serena, I think, has obviously gotten to that level. And it's a very rare level where there's almost nothing else to say. Like, what am I going to sit here and tell you today about Serena Williams? Wow, this is impressive. She's the greatest ever. I mean, she was already the greatest ever. And yes, this was impressive, but it was expected. So you're at this level where you are expected to deliver the most impressive feats. Congratulations to Serena and her family, and it's good to see her back on the court, but it's no surprise to me.
I think it feels so good to see her back because I miss her, but also just what this means in terms of awareness for female athletes and what they go through. She's been very open about the changes with motherhood. She's been very open about the complications she had giving birth, almost dying.
I mean, yes, personal experience. You know, one of my children was a rushed C-section, emergency C-section, and it's a very precarious situation with a long recovery time. So this is not, you know, the typical sort of absence from a sprained ankle or something like that, or you can't just write it off as a natural part of life that some people who don't have an intimate knowledge of it may be doing, because it's a real, you know, process to get your body back healthy and to get back as she has.
Yeah, I love seeing her back and just the triumph of that story, and I would love to see her win another major. I think that would maybe just be the cherry on top, is being able to do that after having a baby.
I'm sure it's coming soon. Nick Saban says don't blame him, at least when it comes to blocking transfers within the SEC. Saban is once again catching heat for standing in the way of players trying to transfer within the conference. Saban said, quote, "I don't think it should be on me," citing a rule which says players are unable to go to another SEC school without a waiver, and if they don't get one, having to sit out a year. Is Saban right here?
This is a bad rule. If a player graduates, they should have immediate eligibility wherever they want to, and the SEC has made this rule, and Saban's enforcing the rule, and I can't blame him for that. His reasoning, though, is because he doesn't want his players to go to his rivals, and we saw 2 seasons ago, Maurice Smith was the DB at Alabama who graduated. Kirby Smart, his defensive coordinator, went to Georgia. Smith wanted to go play at Georgia for his last year, and that was a little bit of a mess. He ended up being able to play there, but it was like, do you want your players to be able to follow their coaches? However, the coaches don't have to sit out for a year. They can move around however they want. And we've seen other coaches like Will Muschamp not enforce this rule. So I don't know if I necessarily blame Nick Saban for enforcing the rule. I think it's a bad rule.
Well, it feeds into his reputation,
yes.
right, as a competitor beyond all else and being totally obsessed with football. If he wanted people to think maybe a little bit more of him personally, he could make a decision to say, all right, that's fine. Go ahead. We're still Alabama. It's not like we need you as a player.
Right.
And I'm showing a little bit of a heart, allowing you to follow what your heart is telling you.
I've never really seen Nick Saban care what people think. I think he cares about winning, and as long as he's winning, it doesn't really matter what the reputation is other than that. He can do whatever he wants as long as he's winning. Well, turning now to the Octagon, UFC Women's Strawweight Champion Rose Namajunas recently joined us to talk about her latest victory over Joanna Jędrzejczyk, her goals as a champion, and why she believes MMA is atop the world of combat sports. Take a look. I'm pleased to be joined by UFC Women's Strawweight Champion, Thug Rose Namajunas. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It's so great to have you here in this beautiful belt. And so you have some pretty good memories in New York, obviously just last month defending your title against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. What did that mean to you to get that win and maybe silence the critics that thought that potentially that first one might have been a fluke?
Yeah, it's always about, proving to myself, just challenging myself and things like that. So yeah, there's a lot of critics out there that, that Joanna included, that thought it was a fluke. So that's important to me, but it's even more important to myself that I proved to myself I'm the best in the world. And yeah, that's all that matters.
Well, I know you were on the bus that Conor McGregor and company attacked. Were you actually considering not fighting? Like, what was going through your head?
Yeah, I didn't feel very safe that night, and so going into the fight, I mean, it's a scary situation anyways, just fighting in general. So of course you have your regular doubts and questions leading into this, and why do I do this and all this stuff. But really that made it extra challenging, and I'm just glad that I got over the challenge, and it was just really important to me to face that fear and to just go out there and do my job anyways. And I did it, and I came out on top.
That must have been a great feeling.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that I feel like I could have a better performance. I felt like my adrenaline was a little bit taxed going into the fight, but overall, I was proud of my performance and what I was able to do.
Has it been what you've expected to have such success? Have there been any big surprises?
I'd say the biggest, I guess, expectation that kind of has surprised me has been the steady gradual growth of just things gradually happening. Like once I got the belt, it just was the next step for me. It wasn't like this whole mountain that I just got over. I'm still climbing up that mountain and that ladder. It's just another notch in my actual life belt. Yes. So it wasn't as drastic of a change as I thought it might be.
That's interesting.
But at the same time, I like that. I like that it's just like an accomplishment, and it doesn't make me who I am. It's a nice tool to have.
Well, I know fans are probably wondering when they're going to see you back in the octagon. What are you thinking in terms of that?
I don't know. At the moment, I feel a bit like I have some. I'm not the healthiest person at the moment. I got a little, injuries and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I want to tend to that first, and then we'll see.
So I want to ask you about just some of the things that you've been through. You've been so open about overcoming so many things, about your father dealing with schizophrenia, about growing up surrounded by violence and drugs, and so many things that you have been through. So how, through all of that, and even now with those memories that are with you, how has fighting been a form of therapy for you?
fighting forces you to deal with your emotions. It forces you to face your fears. It forces you to, just your whatever your biggest fear is. It makes you come to terms with it, whether before the fight or during a fight. And most of the time, you want it to happen before the fight. You don't want to get into the fight and like realize like, dang, what am I doing here? What you just have to ask yourself the question of why you're fighting. So to me, I always focus on what the purpose is. And you got to fight with a purpose. Otherwise, you're just gonna, you're gonna be wondering what you're doing in there.
Real quick, I want to ask you. We've seen a lot of different fighters do crossover fights. Would you ever consider doing a fight in a different type of arena?
I don't know. I think mixed martial arts is where it's at. I love boxing. I'm a huge fan, and I love like just the science behind it, and I use it a lot in my fights. And grappling. I mean, I love jiu-jitsu, but there's something about combining it all together that to me that's like the top of the mountain, and it's my favorite. So it take me it have to be something would have to very convince me like to do that.
We so appreciate your time and just your vulnerability and wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much, Rose.
Thank you.
It's been a show about tweets, so let's end with a couple big ones. Eagles defensive end Chris Long tweeted this about the players competing in the NHL playoffs. I see some people saying, turn on the Stanley Cup. Guys take too many breaks in hockey. Shift changes constantly. For instance, last night, LeBron played the entire game. I'd rather watch the Grinders. Is he wrong?
Well, the tone is perfect because it's exactly triggering for hockey guy, right? Who's like, hockey is the toughest sport there is. Guys will play decapitated. They'll skate on one leg.
Everyone's bleeding.
Yeah, everyone, as if like toughness equates to best, or like nobody else deals with injuries, or that's the reason, people aren't watching hockey. I mean, hockey's a high intense, fast-paced sport. Sometimes you should sell that instead of like trying to make people feel guilty for not watching. It sort of just screams, please like my sport.
I love how he says, I'd rather watch the Grinders. Like you said, implying that hockey players aren't grinding. Totally different entirely.
Those floppers and divas in the NHL.
Such divas. Half of them don't have teeth from hitting each other, but there are such pretty prima donnas sometimes.
Meanwhile, Cleveland Browns safety Demarius Randall really hopes the Cavaliers win the NBA Finals. So much so, it may have a detrimental effect on his bank statement. As he tweeted, if the Cleveland Cavaliers win the 2018 NBA Finals, I'll buy everyone who retweets this a jersey. So far, it has nearly 700,000 retweets. You think he's still rooting for the Cavs?
Oh, my goodness.
That's got to be like $37 million.
Dumb tweet. This is the Cavs. It's not like this is like another franchise that has no chance of winning. Yes, it's a long shot for Cleveland, even though they're in the finals, but this is the Cavs. You're stupid to say that. Unless you want it to be a PR stunt, then, I mean, hey, that's pretty impressive. The most retweets ever for an athlete, but I think that he doesn't have to worry because they're probably not going to win it.
Yeah, but I would be worried if I were him, and they did, in fact, win it. The moral of that is don't send any of those, I'll do this if this happens,
he should have
sort
sent
of thing.
It from a burner account.
We know about Twitter. By the way, Tim Leonard sends a comment for one day and one day only. The Knicks aren't the biggest joke in the NBA. Enjoy, fans.
It might last more than one day.
We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Check out SI Now Live on Twitter in the meantime.